Natasha, and thank you so much for joining me today. Well, today I am using up something that I have been, safekeeping for a time when, I don't know, something. Pop these away in my drawer because I don't want to use them because I love them. These are actually not available anymore, but I will link the ones down below that I now purchase of these. And these are really cheap and cheerful, really, really light chipboard. And that is something I really love. They can add a very cool element to your card, but they are such a good price. Now, I would say that the most popular ones that I purchase now are the Stamperia ones, and they also do lots of, more focal points, I would say, more images and things, whereas these ones here, I think are more like backgrounds, or you can change these into all sorts of things. So let's use these today. You can let me know in the comment section down below, what is the item that you pop aside for safekeeping, that I don't want to use the H word, but you pop aside for safekeeping for later, later. But these are what I love. And I love them because I can just cut these with my scissors. These are next to no weight, like a gram or so if I put them on the scales. And that means that they're not going to create a whole lot of weight if I send these through the mail. But I'm going to create a sort of like a garden backdrop, I would say here. And so I am going to cut off both sides of this just so that I can have them looking the same. We like the same. I could have cut off both sides if I didn't have one of them, but since I do, I will pop them both there, and it's like a little garden trellis. That's what I'm roughly aiming for with this one. I can add some glue onto the back of these. I'm using art glitter glue, but any nice strong adhesive is going to work. I wouldn't say a dry adhesive. I think a wet glue here is going to work best. Pop this down sort of centered more to the right of my card, just ever so slightly. I'm working on a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch card base, and the one thing I do love, this company is P13. These are where these ones are from, and their packaging, I love it when a company makes their packaging useful, and this company does. They always go to a really good effort to make sure that it's usable, and on the back of these chipboards are like a wood grain pattern, and it goes right up underneath the header, so everything is completely usable, which I love. So, as I said, I'm going to be going for sort of a garden trellis sort of look with this one, and I have these Graphic 45. Now, these are pretty old, and I will say, out of each package, I don't have a whole lot left. I sort of have used a lot of them, and I just need to make an effort to keep using them up, all of the smaller flowers, I would say, are roughly gone because these packages come stuffed full. When I don't feel like creating from scratch, I don't want that to be a barrier for me to be card making or enjoy the process. And so sometimes I do, sometimes I love that, sometimes I love watercoloring or alcohol markers or stamping it out and doing that whole process, but other times that just feels like a step too far, and I don't want to be doing that part of the process. So instead of me having to have a stash of them or a hoard of them ready to go, this is a great product like these Graphic 45 flowers. I'm sure there are, other gorgeous companies out there that do them as well. And then I have the All in Create butterflies version of this too. These gorgeous, brightly pre-colored butterflies in all the different colors, and I'm going to make these work together. So it's okay. It doesn't matter what you choose, whether you have a stash that you have already stamped and colored and cut out. If you have a stash that you have cut from magazines or that you got from the dollar shop or something like that, absolutely. Whether you can recycle off previous cards or cards that you've been given or something like that, that's also another good option. So I'm just sort of bringing all my pieces together, and I'm going to use the flowers. So I have the ivory pack, I think it's oranges or reds pack, and the blue. They come in all sorts of colors. You can buy the purple pack, you can buy greens, you can buy, it's really, really nice. And I purchased the ivory ones just because it's such a good neutral that you can mix with the colors as well. So that is definitely, these were a great purchase for me. They've got lots of foliage in there as well, which I appreciate. I'm going to use the Waffle Flower birthday set. And I did a video on this not too long ago that was the best, I honestly do think it's the best die cutting trick ever, where you can stamp out multiples and get it exactly lined up on your die cuts every time, because that is one of my most frustrating things that you do when you cut out a die cut and then you go to stamp the sentiment on it, or the other way around, when you stamp it first and then you use your die to cut it out and it comes out wonky. How frustrating is that? And so this trick stops all of that, so I will put that video in the description box of this one, but if not, you can also search it up as well. It's a really popular video and it's definitely a trick worth knowing if that's something that you've ever struggled with. Now I've got most of my flowers ready. I've got some ivories and some blues. I like to mix and match them. I layer them up and then you can add some dimension. I really do like these flowers. These are good. They don't have white borders, obviously. They're just, and they're coloured on both sides, and they're a different colour on both sides in case you want to flip them over, and then you sort of get a colour that's, a shade darker or a shade lighter, and it just means that you can, use them in another way. So I appreciate the thought that has gone into the design of these. I add in a few little tucks of leaves and bits and pieces, and if a leaf is too big, don't be afraid to just cut it down smaller. It was too big for the style of these flowers, and as I said, I'm getting down to the end of the packets, so we're sort of at the make do and change things to make it work for us stage of the packets. So this is going to be card number 1. I went with a sort of trellis style. If you've got sort of viney die cuts, I think that would look really nice. That was a bit more stems and things. I think you could weave them in and out, and that would be really good too. But that's okay. I didn't have that at the time, so that's fine. And then I do love these little butterflies. I think lots of different colors could go on here, but I'm sort of liking the turquoisey. It seems to fit with the blue nicely. So pop a couple of those on too. And then you can pop some gems in and around this. You can pop some enamel dots. You could put some stickles. I'm going to pop some centers in the flowers. And just because this particular package of enamel dots is older, and I'm just not, they feel sticky to me, but I'm not 100% sure, and I would hate for these to shift if they went through the mail. So I am adding some glue underneath each one, even though, as I said, they feel sticky enough to me. But at this point, I just want to guarantee that when you send a gorgeous card like this, that it arrives as intended. So that is card number 1. I'm going to shift on to a second one. Again, I'm using just basically a different design, but the same bits and pieces that are already around me. My desk at the moment is completely surrounded by ephemera bits and pieces, but that's okay. I'm using a couple of circles from a stacking die set. These are a great investment. There are so many companies that do them. I have the Hero Arts ones, and you should be able to pick up the set that is 16, 18 dies or so, and that gives you every single stage that you're going to need really close together, which is very helpful for a stacking die set. And then this is just a one piece of paper. I'm going to run this through so that I have the outside ring of the circle, and I will keep the inside for something else. Then that is going down onto a card base. Now this one here was already cut out on an angle, and I'm deciding whether to keep it at the angle or whether to frame the inside of the circle with the chipboard, if that makes sense. So rather than having it around the outside, I would just use the inside. I was intending on doing a little wreath of flowers or something along those lines, but this one caught my eye. Now that it's at the angle, I think this looks quite cool. So I just go along the little zigzags, put the glue there, and I know I'm going to cut all of this off. That's one thing that I love with these really, really light chipboards, is that your scissors just slice through them. It's like the equivalent of cardstock, I would say. That's how it feels to go through them. It's not tricky at all. So just something a little bit different to have on your cards. And as I said, these are such a good price point, and so that makes it worthwhile for me. I know with each of these packs that I can get at an absolute minimum 2 cards, but usually more like 4 cards out of each one of these. As I said, that makes it worthwhile for me. And these just provide another little element of dimension. For sure, something, if you didn't have these, then you could, if you've got a background die that is like a herringbone style or something like that, you could die cut out them in a sort of cream or off-white color cardstock, and then you could do 5 or 6 layers of cardstock and put them all together to get the same dimension. That would give a similar look, for sure, absolutely, if you don't have this already, but that is a lot of cardstock if you think about how much that costs and the cost of the die. So as I said, just another fun element. Again, I have all of these waffle flower sentiments, and you can see them all in the back there that I are ready. They're all die cut and ready to go that I made in that video. But for this one, I'm going to use the Paper Rose flag dies, the banner dies, and just stamp it on. And then I thought maybe I would add this to the back of the circle. So I'm just sort of laying everything out, seeing how I want it all to go, and now I will start assembling everything. So I did put some of those flowers together. I had to play with them. I did that off camera just because it's, you know, figuring out which different flowers you wanted to stack up together. And the cool thing is that they have lots of sort of centers of the flowers. I'm not quite sure how to describe that, but rather than layers of the flowers, it's the center pieces, and they have sort of different looking options that look more like, you know, the little stamen, or I don't know, you know, it looks more like the center of the flower. So I quite like that too. Now I'm putting some foam tape on half of this circle because the other half is up on the chipboard, so I don't need it there. I've just got to use glue to go on top of, that will sit on top of the chipboard. I've got my flag and I've cut off the rest of it there, and then I'm just going to add in the little flowers that are going to create. Now I could have, if I'd had smaller flowers, I potentially would have created an entire wreath as well. That would have looked really nice. But as I said, I am getting to the end of these packs, and that doesn't mean that I need to pop them away in a dusty corner. It just means I need to get more creative and find a way to use up the last few in the pack. That way, I know that I'm getting good value for money as well. So as I said, these are all the bigger flowers that are left at the end. But just trying out different looks or different styles of the card, and it's good to have a bit of a play around before you decide on your final look. Now, if you are really enjoying these videos, I have a website which is natashafootcreative.com. I have card making classes on there. I have Bursting Brilliance, which is all about using explosion powders and things, and the absolute ton of ways that we can use them. There is a class with 6 different episodes that you work your way through with all the different methods. There is Color Me Crazy around coloring in images and all the different methods there are for that one. There is another class called You Can't Resist Me, which is an entire class, an entire 6 episodes around all the ways that we can use resist in our card making as well. So there are so many classes up there. I also have a year-long series that I completed for last year, and I have just begun my new year-long series called the Year of Geometrics, which I am absolutely loving. And this one is about making the basics into beautiful, because we don't need a whole lot of stuff for beautiful cards. We do need some things, and that's okay, but we want to work with the basics, and I want to show you exactly what you are able to do, even if you don't think you are able to. So I know that you can, and you can join me over there at natashafootcreative.com. There is always a link down in the description box, but you can just Google it and find it as well. It'll pop up there for you. But thank you for your support. As always, the website is another way that you are able to support me. But if you're interested, there's always the Buy Me a Coffee. I still have that going. But with the website, if you are going to do that, then at least you get something fantastic in return as well, which I always appreciate, and helping me bring all these videos to you on YouTube. But it is really, really fun to finish up this second card here. I've gone with pretty much the same color scheme. I was thinking maybe the purple butterflies, just to give it a little hint of color. I could have done orange, which would have been a really nice contrast. But since I did the turquoise ones on the last one, I went with the purple. Again, adding in some enamel dots and bits and pieces like that as finishing touches. You could add in some stickles, you could add in some Wink of Stella pens, all sorts of things. But I hope that you enjoyed this, and as I said, I will link everything down below, and I'll link the current chipboard that I purchased as well. And other than that, thank you for being here. Thank you so much for joining me and making it all the way to the end, and let me know what is that item that you put away for safekeeping. Wink wink. I will see you later. Bye.